They thought I would suffer in silence. They forgot one thing. I am my mother's daughter.
The morning sun had barely risen over the green hills of Bafut when Shantel emerged from her small compound, balancing a heavy basin of yams on her head. Her daughter Amina, only 8 years old, followed close behind with a smaller load. They were headed to the market, a 3-mile walk each way, where Shantel would sell the yams she had cultivated with her own hands. Inside the house, Tomo still slept, sprawled across the bed that Shantel had purchased with her market earnings. This was his routine: sleep until midday, wake only to eat the food Shantel prepared, then spend his afternoons drinking palm wine with his friend Nico under the mango tree in the village square. It hadn't always been this way. When Shantel married Tomo 2 years ago, she had been filled with hope. He was handsome and charming, the son of a respected family in Bafut. Her mother, Mama Fawn, had expressed reservations. "That boy has soft hands," she'd said, "hands that have never known honest work." But Shantel had been young and in love, certain that marriage would change him. She had been wrong. The abuse started small. A critical word here, a mocking laugh there. Then came the insults: stupid woman, worthless wife, ugly as a bush rat. Shantel absorbed them in silence, telling herself that words couldn't truly hurt her. But words became shoves, and shoves became slaps, and slaps became beatings that left bruises she had to hide beneath long sleeves and forced smiles. Through it all, Shantel worked. She woke before dawn to tend her farm, grew the finest yams in 3 villages, sold them at market, and used every franc to feed her family. Tomo contributed nothing, not a single franc, not a single hour of labor. He took her money, ate her food, and repaid her with contempt and violence. "Mama, why does Papa treat you this way?" Amina asked one evening as Shantel applied shea butter to a bruise on her arm. Shantel had no answer that would make sense to a child. "Eat your foo-foo," was all she said. On a humid afternoon 6 months into their marriage, Tomo made an announcement that stopped Shantel's heart. "I'm taking a second wife," he declared, standing in the doorway while Shantel prepared dinner. "Her name is Nadine. She's young, beautiful, and educated. Not like you, a village woman who knows only how to plant yams." Shantel's wooden spoon clattered to the floor. "A second wife? Tomo, we can barely afford to feed ourselves. How can you?" The slap came so fast she didn't see it coming. She stumbled backward, her cheek burning. "You don't question me, woman. I am the man of this house. If I want 10 wives, I'll have 10 wives. You'll welcome Nadine with respect, or you'll suffer the consequences." 3 days later, Nadine arrived. She was a slender woman of 20 with braided hair and expensive cloth. She barely glanced at Shantel before settling into the main bedroom as if she owned it. That same evening, Tomo ordered Shantel and Amina to move their belongings out. "Where should we sleep?" Shantel asked, her voice small. "The storage room," Tomo said with a cruel smile. "It's good enough for servants." The storage room was barely larger than a goat pen. It had no windows, no proper bed, just bare earth floor and walls that sweated moisture. Shantel laid out a thin mat for Amina and tried not to cry as her daughter curled up against her, confused and frightened. The next morning, Tomo's new expectations became clear. "Shantel," he bellowed from the main house, "bring Nadine her breakfast and make sure the water is hot for her bath. Hurry up, you lazy woman." From that day forward, Shantel became a servant in her own home. She cooked 3 meals a day, fetched water, swept floors, washed clothes, and tended to Nadine's every whim while still working her farm to earn the money that fed them all. Nadine, meanwhile, did nothing but lounge in the shade, admiring herself in a hand mirror and giggling with Tomo. The beatings grew worse. Now Tomo struck Shantel for the smallest infractions. The soup was too salty. The floor wasn't clean enough. She took too long at the market. Each excuse brought his fists or his belt, and Shantel learned to move silently through the compound, trying to make herself invisible. Amina stopped smiling. The bright, curious child who once sang while helping her mother in the garden became quiet and withdrawn. She jumped at sudden noises and watched her father with fearful eyes. One night, after a particularly brutal beating that left Shantel's lips split and bleeding, Amina whispered in the darkness of their storage room prison, "Mama, why don't we leave?" Shantel pulled her daughter close. "Where would we go, my child? This is our home." "But Grandma, Mama Fawn would take us. I know she would." Shantel had thought of this many times, but shame held her back. Shame at having failed at marriage. Shame at not being strong enough to endure. Shame at proving her mother right. "Go to sleep, Amina," was all she said. But that night, something shifted inside Shantel. As she lay awake listening to Amina's soft breathing, she thought of her mother. Mama Fawn was a force of nature, a woman who commanded respect in her village and beyond. She had raised 5 daughters alone after Shantel's father died, working the land and building a prosperous farm through sheer determination. Mama Fawn bowed to no one. What would her mother do in this situation? Shantel already knew the answer. Mama Fawn would never tolerate such treatment, not for a single day. The next morning, while Tomo and Nadine still slept and Amina helped in the garden, Shantel walked to the house of her neighbor, Madame Kako, who owned one of the few telephones in Bafut. "Sister Shantel, what happened to your face?" Madame Kako gasped when she saw the fresh bruises. "I need to make a call," Shantel said quietly. "Please." With trembling hands, she dialed her mother's number. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then that familiar, strong voice answered. "Hello." "Mama," Shantel whispered, and then her voice broke. "Mama, I need help." 20 minutes later, when Shantel emerged from Madame Kako's house, her eyes were red but her spine was straight. Mama Fawn had listened to everything. Every insult, every beating, every humiliation. And when Shantel finished, her mother's voice had been calm and cold as steel. "You listen to me, my daughter. You've done nothing wrong. Nothing. That man and his family will answer for what they've done to you and my granddaughter. I'm coming to Bafut, and I'm not coming alone. In 3 days, justice will arrive. Can you endure for 3 more days?" "Yes, Mama." "Good. Keep your head down, stay quiet, and know that your mother is coming." Those 3 days felt like 3 years. Shantel moved through her routines mechanically, serving breakfast, washing clothes, enduring Tomo's insults and occasional shoves. But something had changed. She no longer felt crushed by the weight of her suffering. She felt like a woman counting down to freedom. Tomo noticed nothing. He was too busy preening with Nico under the mango tree, boasting about his 2 wives and how well he had tamed the stubborn one. "You see, my friend," Tomo said, taking a long drink of palm wine. "Women are like goats. They need a firm hand and a strong stick." Shantel thought she could question me, but look at her now, completely obedient. Nico laughed and clapped him on the back. "You're a wise man, Tomo. I should get myself a second wife too. Show mine who's in charge." They had no idea what was coming. On the morning of the 3rd day, Shantel woke to a sound like distant thunder, but the sky was clear. The sound grew louder, rhythmic, and powerful. Then she realized what it was. Voices, women's voices, singing. She rushed outside and looked toward the road leading into Bafut. What she saw made her heart soar. Down the red dirt road came a procession of women. 50 of them, maybe more, dressed in traditional wrappers and headties, marching in formation like an army. They sang a warrior song, their voices rising and falling in fierce harmony. And at the front, tall and magnificent, walked Mama Fawn. Shantel's 4 sisters were there too, along with aunties, cousins, and women from 5 different villages. They carried cooking pots, brooms, and walking sticks, and their faces were set with righteous fury. The singing stopped as they reached Shantel's compound. Mama Fawn stepped forward and embraced her daughter, then held her at arm's length to examine her bruised face. Her jaw tightened. "Where is he?" Mama Fawn asked. "Still sleeping, Mama, both of them." "Not for long." Mama Fawn turned to the assembled women and raised her hand. "Sisters, today we remind the men of Bafut that women are not property, that wives are not servants, that mothers and daughters deserve respect. Are you with me?" "Yes," the women roared as one. They swept into the compound like a flood. Mama Fawn kicked open the door to the main house, where Tomo and Nadine were just stirring. What is this?" Tomo stammered, sitting up in bed. "I am Mama Fawn," Shantel's mother announced. "And you, Tomo, son of cowards, have made a grave mistake. You have abused my daughter. You have beaten my granddaughter's mother. You have treated a hardworking woman like a slave in her own home. Your reckoning has arrived." Tomo tried to bluster. "You can't just, this is my house. Get out, all of you." "Your house," Mama Fawn laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "My daughter paid for this house with yams she grew. This bed you lie in, she bought it. The food in your worthless belly, she provided it. You've contributed nothing but bruises and tears." The women surged forward. Tomo tried to run, but they caught him in the doorway. They dragged him outside into the compound, where half the village had now gathered to watch. Nico, who had been sleeping under the mango tree, woke to find himself surrounded by angry women. "This one too," Mama Fawn said, pointing at Nico. "He encouraged this behavior, he praised it, he shares the guilt." What happened next became legend in Bafut and the surrounding villages. The women stripped Tomo and Nico down to their undergarments, a public shamming that left both men covering themselves and weeping with humiliation. Then they doused Tomo with bucket after bucket of cold water while the watching crowd jeered and laughed. "How does it feel to be powerless?" Mama Fawn demanded. "How does it feel to be humiliated, to be treated like you're worth nothing?" Tomo could only sob and beg for mercy. Nico received a different punishment. The women beat him with thin sticks, not hard enough to truly injure, but enough to sting and humble. "This is for every woman you told to accept a beating," they chanted with each strike. "This is for every wife you told to stay silent." By the time they finished, both men were broken, weeping on the ground before the assembled crowd. Then the village chief arrived. Fawn Azo was an old man, but he commanded absolute authority in Bafut. He surveyed the scene, listened to Mama Fawn's account, examined Shantel's bruises, and questioned Amina gently about what she had witnessed. Finally, he rendered his judgment. "Tomo," he said, his voice heavy with disappointment, "you have disgraced your family and your village. You have violated every principle of manhood and marriage. Therefore, I sentence you to 6 months of forced labor on the community farm. Every franc you earn will go to Shantel and Amina as restitution for the years you stole from them." He turned to Nadine, who stood shaking in the doorway. "As for you, you knowingly participated in another woman's humiliation. You must leave Bafut today and not return. Go back to your family and reflect on what it means to have sisterhood." Nadine left within the hour, taking only what she had brought. Fawn Azo's final words were for Tomo alone. "If I hear of you raising your hand to Shantel again, if I hear of you insulting her or mistreating your daughter, you will be banished from this village permanently. You will lose everything. Do you understand?" "Yes, Chief," Tomo whispered, still on his knees. In the weeks that followed, Tomo worked the community farm under the watchful eyes of the village elders. He dug irrigation ditches, hauled water, and planted crops from dawn until dusk. Every evening, he returned home exhausted, ate the food Shantel prepared, and went to sleep without a word. Shantel and Amina moved back into the main house. They swept out the storage room and turned it into what it should have been all along, a place for tools and supplies, not people. Mama Fawn stayed for 2 weeks, helping Shantel replant her confidence along with her yam fields. "You're stronger than you know," she told her daughter. "Never forget that. Never let any man make you forget that." On the day Mama Fawn prepared to return to her village, Shantel embraced her mother tightly. "Thank you, Mama, for everything." "That's what mothers do," Mama Fawn said. "We protect our children, and when necessary, we remind the world that women are not to be trifled with." The story of what happened in Bafut spread throughout the region. In the months that followed, other women found the courage to speak up about abuse. Other mothers arrived with their sisters to demand justice for their daughters. The men of the region learned a valuable lesson. A woman's patience has limits, and a mother's love has teeth. As for Shantel, she never suffered another blow from Tomo's hand. Whether fear or genuine remorse changed him, she didn't know and didn't care. She had her daughter, her farm, her dignity, and the knowledge that she was not alone. She had her mother, her sisters, and 50 women who proved that justice doesn't always come from courts or chiefs. Sometimes it comes from mothers who refuse to let their daughters suffer in silence. Sometimes justice wears a headtie and marches down a red dirt road, singing songs of war and righteousness. Sometimes justice looks like love.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for more.